My brothers and sisters, there will come a time in your life when everyone you trusted walks away. When the ones you loved the most leave you shattered. When your heart feels abandoned and your soul feels unheard. In those moments of silence, in the darkness where no one sees your pain, remember this: Allah never leaves you. The one who created your heart is the only one who can truly heal it. This reminder is for every broken soul, because when the world turns its back, Allah turns toward you with mercy, love, and light. When people walk away from you, it often feels like the world is collapsing. You question your worth, your value, and your place in the lives of others. You wonder why they left, what you did wrong, and if you'll ever be loved the same again. The silence becomes loud, the loneliness becomes unbearable, and your heart starts to break piece by piece. But in the middle of that emotional storm, there's something sacred happening, something we often miss. While people may walk away, Allah remains. His presence doesn't depend on your popularity. His love is not conditional. He doesn't abandon you when you're weak, broken, or no longer useful to others. In fact, it is in your most shattered state that He comes closer to you than ever before. People have limits. They get tired. They judge. They misunderstand. They compare. They complain. And eventually, they leave. But Allah, He never misunderstands. He never misjudges. He never gets tired of your tears. He never says, "You cried about this yesterday. Why are you crying again?" When you turn to Him broken, He doesn't tell you to get yourself together. He welcomes your brokenness. He listens to the parts of your soul you can't even put into words. He stays. Through every phase, every flaw, every fall, He stays. There are times when you feel like no one sees you. You walk into a room full of people and still feel invisible. You smile in front of the world but cry behind closed doors. You try to be strong for everyone else while falling apart inside. In those moments, you must remember, there is one who sees every hidden tear, every whispered prayer, every silent battle. He is all-Basir, the all-seeing. He is As-Sami, the all-hearing. He is all-Wadud, the most loving. Even when you feel invisible to the world, you are deeply seen by Him. Even when you feel forgotten by people, you are remembered by Him more than you remember Him. People might leave you at your lowest. They might be there during your success, but disappear during your struggle. But Allah is different. He is there when you're on the mountaintop and when you're deep in the valley. When everyone turns away, He turns toward you. When people change based on your circumstances, Allah remains constant. He does not love you because you are perfect. He loves you because He is perfect. His mercy is not earned by your perfection but gifted in your imperfection. Sometimes, Allah allows people to walk away to show you that He is the only one you ever needed. The detachment is not to destroy you but to direct you, to shift your reliance from creation to the Creator. People leaving you might be the start of you finally turning to the one who never does. Allah doesn't need a reason to love you. He loved you before you even existed. He wrote your story with wisdom, with mercy, and with love. His loyalty is not tied to how useful you are. It's tied to how much He already knows your worth. There are moments in life when you sit in complete silence, surrounded by people yet feeling utterly alone. You scroll through your contacts but don't know who to call. You post a smile, but inside you're crumbling. You wake up with a weight on your chest and sleep with tears on your pillow. In those moments, it feels like no one truly understands. No one really sees you. And no one genuinely cares. But there's one who knows the exact weight your heart is carrying. The one who created you knows every thought you've ever had, every wound you've ever buried, and every emotion you've never been able to express. Your loneliness is seen by the one who created you. You may hide your pain from the world, but you can't hide it from the one who shaped your heart. He knows when your soul trembles. He knows the nights you spend overthinking. He knows when you pretend to be okay, just to avoid explaining yourself. While the world expects you to keep smiling, to keep functioning, and to stay strong, Allah sees the truth beneath the mask. He sees the trembling, the questioning, the exhaustion, and the fear. He sees the depth of your loneliness even when you try to convince yourself that you're fine. Loneliness isn't just the absence of people. It's the absence of connection. You could be in a crowd and still feel alone. You could be in a relationship and still feel empty. You could be surrounded by love and still feel misunderstood. And it is in this type of silent suffering that Allah draws near. Not because you've earned it through strength, but because you need it through weakness. Because He is closer to you than your jugular vein. Because He knows the longing your soul cries for even when your lips remain shut. Sometimes, Allah allows you to feel that loneliness so you can find the only companionship that truly matters. His. He gently disconnects you from everything else so you can finally hear His voice. He removes the noise, the distractions, the false connections, just to bring you back to the most real relationship you'll ever have. The bond between you and Him is not based on convenience, appearance, or circumstance. It is based on divine love, on mercy that never ends, on understanding that has no limits. There are tears that you wipe before anyone sees them, but Allah saw them fall. There are moments when your heart whispers things you don't even admit to yourself, and Allah hears them clearly. When you feel invisible to the world, you are visible to the King of all worlds. When no one checks on you, Allah already knows what's happening in your life better than you do. He knows your back is tired. He knows your patience is thinning. He knows the ache you carry without complaint. And even when your tongue is silent, your pain speaks loudly to Him. Sometimes, when someone walks away from your life, it feels like a part of your soul has been ripped out. You gave them your trust, your time, your love, and your sincerity. You believed they would stay. You thought they understood you. But one day, without explanation or closure, they leave. And what's worse than the silence is the sense of betrayal. You ask yourself what went wrong. You wonder what you could have done differently. And you start to question your worth. But what you don't see in that moment is the unseen mercy of Allah. He removes people from your life not to punish you, but to protect you. Not to hurt you, but to heal you in ways you don't yet understand. We often hold on to people more tightly than we hold on to Allah. We invest everything in them, depend on them emotionally, and expect them to be our source of happiness. And that's where the test begins. Allah will never allow your heart to attach itself to a creation more than the Creator. When the balance shifts, when the love for someone overtakes the remembrance of Him, He intervenes. Sometimes that intervention feels like heartbreak. Sometimes it comes as distance, betrayal, or silence. But in reality, it's divine protection wrapped in painful disguise. There are people who enter your life with sweet words and kind gestures. But their presence is temporary by design. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people are placed in your path as a means of awakening, not as a destination. They are lessons, not lifelines. And when their purpose in your life is fulfilled, Allah removes them. You may not understand it at first. You may cry, beg, and plead for them to return. But with time, you begin to see the wisdom. You start to notice how their absence made room for your growth. How their silence pushed you back into sujood. How their betrayal forced you to rely entirely on Allah again. We sometimes confuse loss with failure, but in Allah's plan, what feels like loss is often divine redirection. You wanted that person to stay because of what you saw. Allah allowed them to leave because of what you couldn't see. He knows the hidden intentions, the unseen future, and the spiritual weight that connection was placing on your soul. His mercy doesn't always look like comfort. It sometimes looks like separation. But what He removes with one hand, He replaces with the other. And what He takes from your life, He either returns purified or replaces with something far better. Letting go is never easy, especially when your heart was fully invested. But sometimes, Allah empties your hands so He can fill them with something greater. Sometimes He breaks your heart just enough to make space for Him again. And sometimes, the people you thought you couldn't live without are removed so you can finally realize who you truly depend on. There are times when the pain inside you feels louder than any words you can speak. When you lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering how you ended up here. When your chest feels tight, your thoughts are heavy. And you don't even have the strength to explain what you're going through. You walk through your day wearing a mask, pretending everything is okay, while you quietly fall apart inside. And in those moments, when you are too tired to pray properly, too numb to cry, and too weak to move forward, know that something sacred is happening. Allah is drawing you closer. He is calling your heart back to Him through the very pain you wish would disappear. Pain isn't always a punishment. Sometimes, it's a whisper from Allah saying, "Come back to be." When your heart aches in ways you can't understand, when the world doesn't offer answers, when even your own thoughts feel like a burden, you are being guided back to your Creator. The hardship is not random. The struggle is not meaningless. It's a divine invitation to realign your soul with the only one who can truly carry your burdens. Allah uses pain not to push you away, but to pull you in, to shift your gaze away from the distractions of this world, and toward the only place where peace truly resides, His presence. You may have tried to find comfort in people, in things, in distractions. You may have looked for healing in places that only broke you further. And now, all those doors have closed, not by accident, but by divine design, because Allah loves you too much to let you keep wandering. He loves you too much to let you stay lost. So He allows the pain to become so loud that you finally listen. Not to the world, not to the lies, but to Him. He lets your plans collapse so you can finally surrender to His. He allows the people you counted on to fail you so you can finally lean on the only one who never will. Every tear you cry is noticed. Every silent scream is heard. Allah doesn't just know your pain. He measures it. He shapes it. He uses it as a tool to bring you back to what your soul was created for. His worship, His love, His closeness. Pain softens a heart that has become hard. It awakens a soul that has become distracted. It humbles a person who has become too confident in their own plans. Through pain, you learn that you are not in control. That you never were. And that there's a mercy in letting go. There's a beauty in falling apart, when you fall into the hands of the one who never lets go. The heart was created to know its creator, not to be filled with this world. So, when you try to place anything else at the center of your heart, it eventually breaks. Not to harm you, but to bring you back to what your heart was designed for. There will be moments in life when people look at you and decide you're not good enough. They may leave without explanation, cut you off without a reason, and treat you like you never mattered. You may pour your heart into a relationship, a friendship, a family bond, only to be discarded when you're no longer convenient. And in those moments of rejection, it's easy to think you failed. It's easy to question your worth and wonder what you did wrong. But sometimes, rejection from the world is actually selection by Allah. He chooses you for something greater when others walk away. When you're rejected by people, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It might mean you've been chosen by Allah for a path they were never meant to walk with you. People see what's on the outside. They judge based on what you wear, what you say, how you behave in public. But Allah sees the heart. He sees your struggles, your sincere efforts, your late-night duo, your inner battles that no one else knows about. While others may overlook you, misunderstand you, or walk away because they can't handle your flaws, Allah sees the beauty in your sincerity. The pain of being rejected by others is real, but it's not the final truth about who you are. It's often the start of a journey toward something far more meaningful, far more lasting. When everyone walks away, you may find yourself asking why you're always the one left behind, why you give so much and receive so little, why you love deeply but get hurt in return. But perhaps those experiences are there to purify your heart, to teach you that your value was never dependent on their approval, to remind you that the only one whose acceptance truly matters is the one who never leaves. Allah doesn't need your perfection. He wants your sincerity. He wants your heart, even when it's broken. Especially when it's broken. Some of the most beloved people to Allah were rejected by their own people. The prophets faced isolation, betrayal, and abandonment. They were mocked, lied about, and pushed away. But that rejection didn't mean they were unloved. It meant they were carrying something too sacred to be understood by everyone. It meant Allah was preparing them for something higher. In the same way, your loneliness could be a sign that you're being elevated, not erased. That Allah is removing the wrong people to make space for something better. That your isolation is not a curse, but a corridor leading you to deeper faith, greater clarity, and a closer connection with your Lord. There is honor in walking alone if Allah is guiding your steps. There is dignity in being misunderstood by people if you are understood by your Creator. The pain of rejection can either break you, or bring you back to the one who sees every scar, and still calls you worthy. When you are rejected by the world, remind yourself that perhaps it's because you are being redirected to something far greater than the acceptance of people. There comes a point in every believer's journey when the heart grows tired of chasing the world. The compliments, applause, the attention. It all begins to feel empty. You realize that no matter how much you gain, something inside still feels incomplete. That restlessness, is a sign that your soul is longing for its true source. True peace doesn't come from people, positions, or possessions. It begins when you surrender to the one who created your heart in the first place. When you stop fighting his plan, stop resisting his wisdom, and finally submit not just outwardly but inwardly as well, that's when a deep, unshakable calm starts to rise within you. The world teaches you to be in control, to chase your goals, to force outcomes, but your soul was not created to carry the weight of control. It was created to rely, to trust, to submit. Every time you try to control what's not meant for you, you exhaust yourself. Every time you try to fix what Allah has closed, you only create more pain. And it's in those moments, when you're drained, defeated, and desperate, that surrender becomes the doorway to peace. When you fall into sujood and pour out your heart, not with demands but with submission, something inside begins to heal. You're no longer asking Allah to move life according to your plan. You're asking Him to align your heart with His plan. Surrender is not weakness. It's the strongest thing you can do. Yeah, it's admitting that you don't have all the answers, but you trust the one who does. It's letting go of what you can't control, and holding firmly to the one who controls everything. It's trading anxiety for tawakkul, confusion for clarity, chaos for calm. The world might tell you that control is power, but in the sight of Allah, power lies in submission, because the moment you say, "Ya Allah, I trust you," is the moment you are no longer walking alone. Your pain has a purpose. Your tears have weight. Your prayers are heard even when whispered in broken Arabic and silent breaths. True peace doesn't mean the absence of trials. It means you are no longer destroyed by them. It means you can walk through the fire and still feel coolness in your chest, because you know who's protecting you. It means you can lose people and still feel loved because you know who remains. It means you can watch your plans fall apart and still feel safe, because you know who is rebuilding something better behind the scenes. That kind of peace doesn't come from knowledge alone. It comes from yaqeen, deep, rooted faith that Allah is enough, that no matter what is taken from you, you still have the one who gives everything. The heart was never meant to rely on anything but its creator. So when you try to find peace in people, it slips away. When you try to find safety in success, it fades. But when you find peace in surrendering to Allah, that peace stays even when the whole world around you is shaking. The world teaches you that your worth comes from how much you give others, that your value is tied to how available you are, how much you serve, how many people you please. From a young age, you're conditioned to believe that being loved means saying, "Yes," even when your heart says, "No." That being kind means tolerating disrespect, and that being valuable means being needed. But the truth is, you were not born to please people. You were created to worship Allah, to live in a way that earns His pleasure, not the constantly shifting approval of those around you. When your entire life becomes about pleasing others, you begin to lose pieces of yourself trying to be everything for everyone. And slowly, you forget that you matter too. People will always have expectations. They will want more from you than you have to give. They will misunderstand your silence, misjudge your intentions, and take your kindness for weakness. You will exhaust yourself trying to keep everyone happy, only to realize that the moment you stop, the love stops too. That kind of love is conditional. It's fragile. It's rooted in what you offer, not in who you are. And Allah didn't create you to live at the mercy of such shallow expectations. He gave you dignity, not so you would break yourself to fit into someone else's mold, but so you could stand firm in your truth, in your faith, and in your purpose. There will be times when walking away from what hurts you feels selfish, when setting boundaries feels cruel, when choosing peace over people feels wrong. But self-respect is not arrogance. It's a form of shukr to Allah for the soul He placed in you. It's a way of saying, "Why Allah, I value what you've created, and I refuse to let others misuse it." When you begin to live for Allah, you'll notice something shift. You'll no longer panic when someone disapproves of you. You'll no longer beg for love. You'll no longer tolerate what drains you, just to feel needed. Because when your heart is filled with the love of Allah, you no longer chase it from people who never understood its worth. You were not created to be accepted by everyone. Even the Prophet Muhammadan, the most beloved to Allah, was rejected by people. He was insulted, hurt, and abandoned. Not because he wasn't worthy, but because truth is often uncomfortable to those who don't want to hear it. So if you find yourself rejected for choosing deen over dunya, if you're left behind for speaking truth, If you're misunderstood for setting limits, it's okay. You weren't made to fit into a world that constantly moves further away from its creator. Real freedom begins when you stop living for likes, for compliments, for validation that fades the moment you change. You begin to rise when your self-worth is no longer placed in someone else's hands but rooted deeply in the knowledge that you are a servant of the most merciful. There are moments when you delay your prayer, telling yourself you'll do it in 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour later. Before you know it, the time has passed, and you missed the one meeting that mattered most. Not with a person, not with a job, but with Allah. The salah you skipped wasn't just a ritual, it was a lifeline. A moment where your soul had the chance to breathe, your heart had the chance to soften, and your burdens had the chance to be lifted. But in the rush of the world, it becomes easy to treat prayer like a task instead of a connection. And slowly, that delay becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a spiritual distance that begins to eat away at your peace. Salah isn't just an obligation. It's a mercy. It's the one place where you stand in front of the one who knows everything you're going through, even the things you can't say out loud. It's where you're allowed to cry, to break, to be vulnerable, without shame or judgment. Delaying it isn't just about time, it's about priorities. It shows what your heart values most at that moment, and when the heart begins to put the world before the Creator, it starts to feel heavy, restless, anxious. That's not a punishment, it's a reminder. A signal from Allah that your soul is starving while you're feeding everything else. You'll find time for everything you care about, for scrolling, for talking, for working, for planning. But the one who created time asks you for just a few minutes, and even that feels like a burden when the heart is distant. The truth is, when you prioritize salah, you're not doing Allah a favor. You're saving yourself. You're shielding your mind, your heart, your future from things you can't even see coming. Every sajda is protection. Every ruku is healing. Every word you recite is a rope pulling you out of whatever storm you're silently drowning in. There's a reason the Prophet would turn to prayer in times of distress. Not because he didn't have responsibilities. Not because he had nothing else to do, but because he knew that nothing could help him like standing before his Lord. If the best of creation found peace in prayer, what about us? How much more do we need it when life feels unbearable, when our strength runs dry, when our hearts feel empty? Yet we delay it for things that don't even bring us lasting happiness. And then we wonder why nothing feels right anymore. Salah isn't about how perfect you are when you stand. It's about your willingness to keep coming back, even after falling, even when you feel guilty, even when you feel unworthy. It's about reminding your soul that no matter how far you've gone, the door is still open. That Allah still wants to hear your voice, still wants you to return, still accepts your brokenness as long as you turn to Him willingly.